public hearings. All right, I guess we will move on. We will open the public hearing on the solid waste ordinance changes. Now, what we've basically done with these is just change some definitions. Is that correct, Mark?
On ordinance 20,
And
yes.
20. Yes, we have two, 20 and
Yeah.
21.
Yeah, so we have defined, there was no, let me back up. The first change in the ordinance is, the current language of the ordinance says that it relates to waste that is generated only by inhabitants of the town of Waterville Valley. So the addition has been put in there and/or guests, so that it also covers the transient population, because the way the ordinance reads right now, it's only supposed to be, I guess you could say, the full-time residents, the inhabitants of the town. So in that respect, the ordinance is being expanded. Additionally, in our current ordinance, the way it's written, there's no definition of what is municipal solid waste. So when we're talking about disposing of MSW in dumpsters, what does that mean? You're supposed to be putting in the dumpsters, et cetera. So the definition of MSW was added in there. And then the third change is that we are specifying that only municipal solid waste can be disposed of in the dumpsters. Because we also have electronics, we have tires, we have demolition debris from renovations, that sort of thing. That material is not supposed to be in our dumpsters. But it is ending up in our dumpsters, in fact, quite a bit lately. So we want to make it very clear what type of material is supposed to be being disposed of in the dumpsters. So those are the three changes on ordinance 20.
Has everyone who's out here would like to comment had a chance to read the definitions? Would anyone like to add or have any comments on definitions?
I am fine with the definitions. As I was telling Mike earlier, it would be helpful, I think, given that there's a lot more trash than what we define as municipal waste. She gave the folks who might be using dumpsters a hint what they can do with the rest of it.
Okay.
Even if it's just a footnote saying, see this other ordinance or something.
Well, I think one of the things we're intending on doing is, once this is adopted, we're going to circulate this to the management companies, who will be circulating it to the presidents of the boards to give out to the board, to the property owners. And I think maybe we can extend that to add some more broader definitions in our letter. That makes sense to everybody?
Sure.
Yeah,
It does,
in terms of instructions.
Right. Right.
About what you do with your excess furniture,
Exactly.
lamps, et cetera, et cetera.
I know when I was on the board of directors of one of the associations here, condominium associations, because our trash wasn't picked up once or twice, because there was other than MSW, I can shorthand it that way, and we found out why, we ended up putting signs up on our enclosures explaining what could and could not be deposited in the dumpsters to remind people. No TVs, and we specified, no furniture, bring them to the transfer station. So I think this has to be a partnership that the associations and the property managers of those associations needs to put up needs to inform the people, the guests primarily, as to what is allowed in the town dumpsters. That's the critical part of it.
Within our quarterly water, sewer, and trash bills, we can put reminders in. We can work with the associations for signage. We can do whatever we need to get people.
You know, I think it would be great if you came up with recommended signage.
Yep.
And then
Sure.
they'll all be the same. And
Yep.
no baloney.
Okay.
Sure. Okay, great. Okay. Anything on change number 2, only MSW allowed in the for instance, service dumpsters, we could actually, goes back to our instruction sheet and our communications with everyone. Any other comments? All right, any other comments on ordinance number 20? Okay, we will move ahead to ordinance number 21.
Okay, so this ordinance pertains to the actual enclosures themselves, and I know that I've already had a question today about the separate regulations as far as what the enclosure looks like, how the doors need to open and that sort of thing. And Jim, we need to find whatever documentation we have in our records and just make sure we have those available to attach to this, so that people can see what the expectation for the construction of the enclosure is. A lot of these enclosures are on a case-by-case basis, okay? So each area where the truck is pulling into, each of the different condo associations or whatever, their dumpster enclosure will be different than enclosures at other associations, right? Just because of topography or the parking lot situation, whatever it is, we modify these, but we have some basic requirements as far as 4x4 posts and
We have a
we have a typical drawing that we use. So that's the enabling regulation that's referred to here in this ordinance, okay? But it isn't something that we hold every association to exactly the same standard, if you will, okay? We do allow it to be modified, but so I just wanted, because I had that question, I just wanted to make that clear.
Just gonna just say
Yeah.
something about that. I know
Yeah.
I'm skipping down here to number 5, but,
Sure.
and I guess these fines have been part of the ordinance for a while.
Yeah.
Since 98, whatever. But, if we're gonna fine people, for violations, which includes the structure
Mhm.
of the enclosure, how do we know that that's being fairly applied? If there's some room for interpretation here,
Right.
how does that?
But it hasn't been applied so far, and I think dialogues will be in place before a fine comes in. And a fine is, as with our dog regulation, it's the last resort.
That's right.
So are there existing enclosures that are not compliant?
Well, let me just go back to finishing off my thoughts on the fine. My thoughts on the fines are initially to take people who are not Waterville residents, who, one of the problems we've identified is people who do not live here, who are up and heading towards skiing and dropping their garbage here. So I think,
Well, that would
That's-
be ordinance 20.
20.
And as it
Right.
relates to 21, I understand what you're saying. So we cannot say that an enclosure will always be 8 feet by 8 feet concrete pad, with exact dimensions and that sort of thing. When I say that we adapt it to a situation, we're going to say, here's a typical enclosure, okay? The concrete is X number of inches thick. The area in front of the enclosure has to be flat and paved. It has to have 4-foot walls or 5, whatever it says in the typical. Those sorts of requirements will be part of everybody's enclosure. But we will adapt the exact dimensions of it and that sort of thing to the particular association,
Do
okay?
associations today, does any association today have an enclosure that the town thinks is not compliant?
There are several associations and commercials that do not meet these regulations
Right.
because they don't have doors.
Right.
However, those doors were removed at our request because the doors that were on there were non-conforming and they were impossible for us to use in an operational way. So we've talked to those businesses or those associations, and we said, please remove those because our truck can't get access to it. Now, we need to go back once we get these changes in place, and we need to talk with all of the associations and bring everybody back up to the standard. But like Mike says, we're not gonna go back the day after town meeting and start fining those people that we asked to take the doors off. Okay, so we're gonna work with people, and the fines are gonna be the last resort, but we have to have some enforcement mechanism in case people just tell us to no way, we're not gonna do it.
I was gonna say the bigger issue, as far as I'm concerned, is not having access to the dumpster.
Right.
And, the property manager doesn't clean in front of where the dumpster needs to be picked up, or there's litter all around the dumpster, or the top isn't cleared off of snow. All of those things are supposed to be handled by the property managers. And those are some of the things that cause your dumpster not to be picked up, in addition to putting stuff in the dumpster that doesn't belong there.
Can someone from the town come out and talk to each association and make recommendations as to what the enclosure should be, to case by case, and say, okay, you need to do this, you need to do that, and this way we've got it, we know what we're dealing with.
Yes, and in fact, one of the new additions to this is for a list of responsible points of contact for each association. So we will know who to call on each dumpster. And our plan, and I've talked to Jim about this, is to have maybe a semi-annual meeting to go over this, the information, that's whatever's happening with trash collection just in general with the associations. And we can do that better if we have this list of points of contact. And we can go out, Jim and I, or whoever, can go out with the associations and say, hey, you need to do this. And we've had meetings with associations when they wanted to rebuild their enclosure or whatever, and we've sat down and talked with them about them.
That would be perfect,
Sure.
just make things so much easier so that you don't start to fix something
Right.
and fix it wrong.
Right, exactly, and so like, especially when you redo your parking lot in an association or whatever, we like to meet with the contractor and say, you need to do the pavement in front of this enclosure a certain way so that the truck can get access to it. So,
My problem with these my problem with the new proposed regulations is an issue of basic fairness and equity.
Mhm.
So it's one thing to talk informally here in this setting and say certain things are going to be enforced this way, certain things aren't, but that's not what it says on the paper. So you're saying, no, we're not going to find somebody that we told to take the doors off the dumpsters, but when you find somebody the day after town meeting for having snow on their dumpster, or not pick up, or not. But
Yeah.
but wait a minute, Mike. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
That's what it says. And the town, and again, I'm saying this with all due respect because I think the town is exceptionally well run. That's why I moved here. But the trash collection is a mess. We discussed that before. The town is not living up to its responsibility. Yet now we have all kinds of impositions on the associations where the town is not living up to its responsibility to even pick up the trash, even if all these conditions were met. Yet we now have new conditions which we are responsible for paying out of pocket in addition to paying our tax money. That
Okay.
seems to me like we're going in the wrong direction.
These are not new, but let me just back up on this. We admit we've had a problem in the last few weeks with this. It's been a convergence of all kinds of factors that have created this. Part of these factors have been, our truck has been an issue, that our truck is gone, we have a smaller truck. But part of this has been that with the ice and the storms and the way the dumpsters have been maintained, that's what brought this to our forefront. That our guys were going out, spending the time to go to a dumpster, not being able to get the dumpster out, spending time to try to be the good guys and help out by cleaning around the dumpster so the dumpster can be moved out. This is what's caused the backup. It's been a whole bunch of stuff, not just the truck. But the reason we went to look at these regulations again is because the conditions of the dumpsters as left in the condominiums and in the commercial accounts have not been conducive to our guys doing a quick, streamlined job as the previous regulation said. And in there was some ambiguity in that where no one was aware and no one was really pointing out whose responsibility it was.
Yeah.
People had questions about whether there's garbage on the side of the dumpsters. They can't get in. It takes our guys 20 minutes to pick up the bags in front of the dumpsters so they can get their hooks on the dumpster to lift it up. Our guys have been trying to do that and trying to accommodate.
So-
It's very rare that our guys don't pick up a dumpster. So besides, that issue, the fact that our truck died 4 times in 3 days, and we have 1 truck has not helped. We're doing our best. We understand this, and we're trying to make our contract and be responsible in doing what we can. This is going to help everyone in the long run, and that's why we revisited.
I am certainly willing to give the town a little slack for this year. But my take is that, I guess I've been here for about 20 years. For the first 15, there was never an issue about bags being outside the dumpster because the dumpster was never full. The last 4 or 5 years, you can predict when it's going to happen. It's going to happen at Christmas, school vacation week, early in the season.
And
There
we've
are
been
3 or 4
adding
weeks
extra dumpsters.
every year for the last 3 or 4 years
And
that trash ends up on the ground because the dumpster's full.
And we have actually added 20 dumpsters. 4 years ago, we had 55 dumpsters. We now have, probably 5-6 years ago, we had 55 dumpsters all over town.
Yeah.
We now have 75 dumpsters all over town. And you're still seeing what's happening during the holiday weeks. Why that is happening? A lot of it is the fact that people are throwing couches in the dumpsters. They are throwing demolition debris when they revamp their bathroom or whatever. We're finding TVs and stoves and all kinds of stuff that should not be in the dumpsters. And that is exacerbating the peak periods, because that's when people are here, that's when they buy the new furniture, etc. So I think there's an education of what should be put in the dumpsters, number one. And number two, with the loss of the, shall we say, single source property management system that we had here for the first 15 years that you're referring to, we never had a problem with dumpsters because that property management company was out in front of us. They knew what the standard was. And when our guys went to a dumpster, it had been shoveled out, or if it was extremely full and there were extra bags of garbage or whatever, those were taken care of before our truck got there. Cars were not parked in front of the dumpster enclosures like is happening on a regular basis now, because the property management company was there working with the condos and getting those cars moved before we got there. So it has gotten worse over the last few years. I agree with that.
But I make 2 quick points.
Yeah.
Point one, I suspect too that the fact that we no longer recycle exacerbated the problem. Because we have bags now bags of trash going into the regular dumpster where people used to take them to the transfer station. So that probably also accounts for some of the increase. The second point I'd like to make is to reiterate the point I made earlier, which is this is a partnership. It's not the town's responsibility if there are bags on or around a dumpster. Those have to be the responsibility of the, I was going to say not the property manager, but the condo association who hires a property manager to make sure that that dumpster is suitably ready for pickup. That's not absolving the town of any problem. I mean, a truck broke down, end of story on that part, but it's a partnership.
Rich, but it's great to say it's a partnership, but what is the town's responsibility?
Okay, let me just interject one quick thing
Yeah.
on this. What we have to remember about the uniqueness of our town and the uniqueness of the weather we've seen this year is the same guys that are picking up your trash are the same guys that are plowing your road and keeping the sidewalks clear. So we have to put that and cut a little bit of slack into that, because we've had, how many of those little 3-inch icers this year? More than we've ever had, but especially going into these holiday weeks. But our responsibility, Alan, is to take care of this in an orderly, clean, and healthy, safe way.
So whose responsibility for the condition of the dumpsters and the fact that if there's a slight bit of rain, the doors freeze up entirely and nobody can get in those dumpsters? Whose responsibility is that? Whose responsibility is it to pick up the trash and to, how is it that we don't know when the trash is going to be picked up? So under these new regulations, I have to have Will Lambert come and check every single day to make sure that the top of the dumpster is free of snow and every single bag of trash is picked up. If I knew it was going to be picked up on Tuesday, I'd be a lot more in favor of this stuff, because I think what's in here is quite reasonable. But since I have no idea when the dumpster was, whether we can get into the dumpster at all because the doors are frozen most of the winter, and that I have no idea when the trash is going to be picked up. So now I'm paying a property manager every single day at $45 an hour to come in and troubleshoot all of this.
But
That seems like an unfair burden compared to what the town is offering.
what you were before, what happened before was with a single source property manager, they had crew chiefs. And those crew chiefs had been here for a long time. And those crew chiefs knew what needed to be done in each property, including the dumpster, including how you plowed, where you plowed, if you needed to plow. That was part of the property manager's job. What's happened is, I've seen this from my own home and, another property I own. The new property manager system, the people haven't been trained properly. And I've spoken to some of the property managers about this. Once this is brought into the forefront, they're going to try to train their people to do this. But one of the problems they have is there's been a lack of consistency.
So at our cost. So they have to check every single day on the off chance that our trash might be
But this is
picked
a
up that
technical
day.
question. Jim, do you have a particular route you follow, or is it dependent upon particular day of the week, holiday, what have you, and weather?
It, always weather related.
Right.
There is no set schedule. What we have to keep an eye on is that we have several customers, if you will, that are higher volume than a lot of the others. And there are some condominium associations that are higher volume than others, hence different sized dumpsters in different condo associations. We pretty much know which associations use their dumpsters and to the max and which ones don't. So what we try to do is we try to get out and we try to check each and every one of them. We know that the truck only holds 25 to 27 dumpsters. We have 75. Then we have to make a 3-hour round trip to Bethlehem. That pretty much shoots the day. Takes a half a day to pick up 25 to 27 dumpsters. And then it takes the 3-hour round trip. That pretty much shoots the day. So you throw in some weather and it kind of backs things up a little bit. We try very hard to pay close attention to the high volume users and try to empty them as soon as we can. So
8 days. 8 days we haven't had our trash picked up. 8 days.
So we should know about that. This is the first I'm hearing of this. When I hear things like that, I ask for that question to be answered. Is there a answer to why?
It's frozen all weekend. Nobody could get in it all weekend. It's full now. It was picked up last Wednesday.
All right. Did you let anybody know that it was full and frozen?
which one is this?
High country.
Yeah, we couldn't access it.
For what reason?
Truck can't back up to the dumpster. If you can't back the truck up to the dumpster, you can't hook it on and dump it.
Why couldn't they
And,
access
and
it?
Will was notified.
Same dumpster enclosure for 20 years.
Right, and if ice builds up in front of it, you can't, if you allow ice and snow to build up in front of the dumpster, when the truck backs up, the truck is higher than the dumpster, so you can't hook onto it. There are ears that go, that we can dump a dumpster and do a dumpster demonstration if you'd like, but this is why if your property managers allow ice and snow to get picked up.
Yeah.
I mean, to build up, then we can't get the truck in there.
Will's coming.
So, I do want to say that, at least from my perspective, I'm pretty hardcore in this position. There's no reason why there should be bags around or on a dumpster. To me, full stop. If the dumpster is full, then it's the responsibility of the guest or the resident to take that. We have dumpsters here, to take the bag here to be disposed of. I have no sympathy for anyone who says, well, we have our trash hasn't been picked up and there are bags collecting along the sides or on top. I do have sympathy when it hasn't been collected for whatever reason it might be, weather related, what have you, but not when there's bags outside. That's why I mean it's a partnership here.
Right, but we need a communication plan. We need to
Well, that's what I
know,
was
we
thinking.
need to know. that-
Someone should have informed us.
Now, when did you know about this dumpster being an issue? Today is, you said, Alan, it was 8 days?
It was cleaned out last Wednesday.
Okay, last Wednesday. When did you go to it again, Jim?
I'd have to check with the guys,
All right,
see when they,
and you notified Will? Were you notified about the High Country dumpster being iced in?
I think Mike told my guy, oh, wait a sec, being iced in?
Well, this is what Jim is saying, there's.
oh, we had an access problem.
Yeah, I know, that's, I got that through, my guy John. I guess Mike told my guy John, who told me that they might not be able to actually get the dumpster and access it adequately, so it talked about taking it out and leaving it out. That was a message that I got yesterday, I think is what it was.
Okay, and I think we all need to increase our communication and have a log of this communication.
Well, Mike, that's why we
Yeah,
want this
trying to.
list. We're
Right,
trying to establish the contact list so that we can have a
Yeah.
regular.
No, I've
way
got
to
you, and
do
that's one of the things we're working on, but I think this is an example of the whole thing going wrong.
I've been checking it every day. Who should I call?
The town,
Who in the town?
just call Sharon, anyone will get the message to call the town.
The town office number.
And that's with anything in town.
Okay.
That you need. Sir, you had a question?
Yeah, back to
Could
the
you
ordinance.
identify yourself?
I'm Paul Chamberlain, North Face. Sorry. I have no problem with the emphasis on the associations keeping the inside of the enclosures clear of snow and ice. That's probably an area that, I'm gonna talk to Will about, and we'll figure out how to do that. I think that's very fair and absolutely probably something we haven't done as well as we could have. The problem I have is in kind of the spirit of a partnership. If our dumpsters get full, and I do disagree a little bit, you've got guests, we're a resort community. Predictably, the winter, over Christmas break, our dumpsters are full. Whether or not there's, you guys are trying to respond to us, and I'm sure one of our dumpsters is one of the high volume ones. It's full, and I don't think it's practical to expect 100% compliance with people taking trash down to the transfer station, which puts and so that's one thing. So we've got an anticipated high volume period. The second, then what happens if the truck breaks down or the crew has to get diverted to snow removal? Suddenly we're in the jeopardy per the draft ordinance of being fined if we don't have Will checking the enclosures every day, to make sure we don't have trash bags on the ground. Is that really in the spirit, that fine potential, those teeth, is that really in the spirit of kind of a cooperative relationship between town and the associations?
Well, let's think of a compromise then. If it's not acceptable, then we're here, that's what we're here for, to discuss this ordinance. This isn't a law, this isn't anything else, but this is a discussion to see how we can all work in the spirit of cooperation to make this better and make the whole system work. What initially we came in to do with this is to set up a method of communication where we felt there wasn't one in the previous ordinance. But these fines have been here for forever. And have they ever been enforced, Mike?
Right.
Well,
I understand that, but as the point was made,
No,
they're still in the ordinance.
give me a suggestion how to change it.
I don't, do we need
And
to
I
change?
don't mean that out of anything else, but give me an idea of how to change it that would be palatable.
Well, Actually, I wouldn't ask you to change it. Because we do a similar kind of thing in our association vis-a-vis parking.
Yeah.
We say that it's acceptable for the board to levy a fine. We don't say they're going to or that they have to, but it's an option when things get out of control. And I don't see that as a
How
bad
about if we
thing.
change a word in number 5 here? To any person who violates this ordinance, instead of shall, may be guilty.
I think that's the key word.
Does that work for everybody? Does that work for you, Mark?
Be two mays, may and may. And may be subject to a
Yeah.
fine.
Or shall be guilty and may be subject to a fine?
Okay, let me check with legal counsel, because I'm not sure
But
what
I
the
think,
difference between may and shall in that
well,
context.
I think that would
is.
bring the fairness back into that, because we tend to use discretion. And I think we understand that when you're jammed in and all this, we're doing our best, you're doing your best. We can understand that. We can understand when our truck is down and our guys are plowing, it's not gonna be perfect when the guys get to the dumpsters. We can only do the best we can, and we can just try.
I think communication is very important
Yeah,
too. I think that our association had the dumpster with bags on
Right.
top of it and everything else. And as stupid as we were and didn't realize that
Right.
it was our responsibility to get them
Oh,
down.
that's
And that was
right.
stupidity on our part, but if we had called and said,
Right.
hey, and then you had said back to us, hey, that's your responsibility to get them out of there. But I think we just need to open the,
Right. And I think we're gonna assist on signage that'll go on the inside of dumpster enclosures that say, please do not leave bags outside. Bags may be deposited at the town facility.
Yeah, and I think that's very important, because there are a lot of properties here in town where there isn't a dumpster option. So the fact that you have up until that dumpster is full, right? Once that dumpster is full, then you're gonna be treated like all those property owners in town who have no dumpster at all and are bringing all of their trash down here. So I think that needs to be communicated to folks too, that part of this is because of the density and all of the fact that the transient guests are primarily in our condos. And so we're putting those dumpsters out there to help keep the town cleaner. But every property owner, the last resort is to come here. And that's true for everybody.
A lot of people
And
don't
a
know
lot
that.
No, and they don't, and it's because they're transient, most, guests, they're
figure
not
someone's gonna
regular
pick it
property
up.
owners, so we have to communicate.
But I think if the town were a bit more vocal about that,
Yep,
Well, we want to
absolutely.
be, that's why
Yeah,
we're looking at
exactly.
this.
it's easy enough to communicate
Yeah,
that kind of stuff in an annual meeting.
We understand that, and that's why we've taken these steps to do this, and why we're gonna compile that list of property owners and property managers, so we can have a chain to go through there. Will, you had a question?
Well, I was just gonna say, I mean, I put up in a lot of our dumpsters, like if, things overflowing, come down here, bring it to the town facility. Also, the same with the TVs and the mattresses and all that good stuff. But the issue I see is when people just think that the thing is full, they throw it right on the ground, just follow suit, and it's really, the countless emails that we've put out to associations and talking with boards, it's been, just goes on deaf ears. It's tough.
I'm willing to reluctantly support the regulations with that change in mind. The thing, I do think, if it's really a communication, if the intent is really communication, I'd like to take that to the next level. I'd like to find out exactly, I'd like to find out exactly what the problem is with our dumpster, and see what we can do to rectify that. I think that the things get immeasurably worse when the dumpster is full, and when it's chronically full, which it has been all winter. It's really an issue. So I'd like to get some better communication around that and what we can do around that to make sure that it's not chronically full, because then people they just get in the habit of just leaving it there. I also feel
why it's chronically full. I mean, do you have a sense of why?
it is full every weekend. It's full every weekend now.
And that's
We
different.
need twice a week. We need twice a
Yeah.
week.
We go
emptying
into
out.
weekends with,
Yeah.
fairly often with a dumpster that's nowhere near empty.
It was a third full on Friday.
Yeah.
It was frozen all weekend. We got some people to open up the top and we threw it all in. So, but it's been full since then.
And that's new, essentially, is what you're
It's
saying.
new since since recycling was canceled.
Okay.
We
That's what I was
were
wondering.
surviving okay enough up until that point, other than the holiday weeks, which have been documented. I think what would cripple us is if the regulations were to be interpreted as there's a flake of snow on the top of the dumpster, we're not picking up your trash.
No.
We don't have
We're in
employees
real
like
trouble.
that.
So
Our
we need
employees
to.
go up and beyond. That's-
If our
Yeah,
trash
settle.
can't be picked up, I want to be personally notified. Okay,
Yes.
that
That's
we can get
100%
on
fair.
that, we can get on that problem immediately.
Yeah.
No matter what the problem is, if it's a frozen dumpster door, if it's trash on the ground, if it's snow on the top, I want to know immediately because this was a huge subject of our conversation at the owners meeting that was a couple weeks ago, and it's taking up a ton of my time to sort
No,
of
Well,
get on top of it.
conversely, I think, beyond telling people to come down here and dump their trash, we should have a notice that if the dumpster is full, please call town hall to let us know. Because we might not know, because it might not be on Jim's route every week. They might not know that it needs attention as much as it does.
And I'm really looking forward to the most hopeful thing I heard at the budget meeting was the NRA coming in to take a look. Because I think that's really what's necessary, you know, should we even be in the trash business? I mean, it's like, you know.
Alan, we've tried getting out of it. No one will come in and do it for us.
Yeah. And I tried last year to get the owners to have the dumpster removed. It's in our bylaws, so I couldn't just do it. But the dumpster is a major problem for
We
us.
set out an RFP for someone to take over our trash services. And we spent a lot of money on this RFP. We were hoping at least at a minimum, we would have these big hauling companies
Waste
come in.
management,
yeah.
Casella.
So we'd hope they would come in and give us a plan that goes, for this many dollars, we would do this, 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 and this.
They wouldn't even.
We
come in
got
with it.
one response from a guy from Rumney with a truck who said, I'll be there Tuesdays. I'm not kidding.
No, that's.
That's what we got. A guy from Rumney with a truck who could be here Tuesdays.
Warren, but it's just like.
Yeah.
Just a little further. No,
Yeah.
that's part of the problem of being here. We're too small and we're not consistent enough, where they don't want to come up here.
And
So we have looked at options. We're gonna continue to look at
Yeah, we're still
options.
looking.
And NRA will come in. They're coming in to talk to us about recycling.
They're talking
They're
about
not gonna be
compost.
they're not gonna be talking about MSW. We're gonna, our plan right now is to replace it with a more reliable truck. So we're gonna be able to service the dumpsters as many times as we need to. Right now, we have, during the holiday weeks, our guys are working 7 days a week. The problem is, we can't dump the trash on the weekends because the landfills are closed. So,
Is there anything that can be done about the,
yeah.
Jim or anybody, is there anything that can be done about the frozen dumpster doors? I mean, that's just a major problem. Is there anything?
Here's our big problem again, melting snow and rain, and then sub-zero temperatures. And sometimes if you put a little WD-40, it lasts for a little while, but it doesn't really always keep it from freezing. I guess the best thing would be the biggest guy in the condo association to give it a wrap, because that's what I do down
That
here.
would be me.
The other option would be to have 3-sided dumpster enclosures, and because of the language here, that is something that the selectmen we could potentially go townwide to 3-sided dumpster enclosures with no doors. But, you know, you're gonna get pushback from that because people don't wanna look at the dumpsters.
No,
So-
the doors, I think you're talking about this.
Side doors, metal side doors,
Oh,
metal
I'm
side
sorry,
doors.
I'm sorry. Well, but the access doors to the enclosures
On
are
occasion,
issues too, so.
Yeah. But I think, Alan, you've identified a really important point. One of the consequences of not recycling could be that we don't have enough dumpsters deployed in some associations, certainly at peak periods. Because what is it, 20% we guesstimated, 15, 20%? I'm sorry, William.
20, around 15% the last.
So that's now added to
Was
the
it-
dumpster.
Well,
I think it's more, it's turning out to be more than
no,
that.
that trash was going into dumpsters. That trash was going into one of the 75 dumpsters before. We did not invent a new 15%.
No, before we
wait.
recycle, this you're saying,
But
what
also,
we had is
the tr-
handled it.
The
No,
truck,
no.
the truck we've been stuck using is smaller than what we've had. We don't have. Will, you had another question?
I was just gonna say, during the peak period, I had a 30-yard roll-off container in my yard, which I absolutely filled with trash from everybody, because I was collecting trash twice a day through the holiday period,
Which the
which
association's
everybody
paid
paid
for.
for extra.
Well,
We have one here as well.
oh, wait though, if you gotta look at the numbers,
Okay,
for the last 5 years, we have generated the same amount total of trash in the town. Whether it got put into a blue dumpster or whether it got
Okay.
put into a green dumpster, we have been pretty consistent around 800 to 820 tons of trash. That hasn't changed. Number two, we left those blue dumpsters out there. So when I say we have 75 dumpsters, that includes the blue dumpsters. So the same dumpsters were collecting the 800 tons of trash year to year. So we haven't, when we stopped recycling in September, I don't know what's causing
but
this.
those blue dumpsters are here, right?
Right. Well, they're out and
No,
about.
they're out and
There's
about.
some
Mostly at
There's-
commercials.
But at
Mostly at
commercials, I don't recall
commercials, but
seeing
they're
that
all
in
being used for
associations.
trash now, where they were being used
Okay.
for recycling before.
I just had
So
never seen any of the
it does seem
associations.
it might be a good idea if the town brought Gaylords in on the few big weekends.
And we
So
do.
Will isn't doing that.
We actually have one right down there right now, it's actually full of stuff. And we have brought in 10-yard roll-on, roll-off dumpsters here during the holiday weeks. We started doing that 2 years ago. So I don't know where all this extra trash is suddenly coming from that is filling up the dumpsters, other than the fact that we have seen a lot of demolition debris, and we have seen a lot of furniture
Electronics.
and a lot of electronics. And I think personally that that's filling up these dumpsters faster than what we were doing before.
No, I think what's happening is that our recycling stuff that we were bringing down here is now going into our association's dumpsters, and that's what's filling it up.
No.
I know my
A lot of
garbage,
associations
empty
don't
garbage
have.
I
Before
had
we
a lot
did
faster.
before we did recycling, that trash was, and there hasn't been an appreciable change
Yeah.
in the total
But
amount.
it may not, that may not work for every association. Alan, does your association have old recycled dumpsters, or were they all the general trash?
It was all,
They're all
This
general.
is all
one
general
general, yeah.
trash, so.
One general
We
trash?
didn't put recycling.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So what we would carry down here is now
Right.
going into our
That may have to
association
change.
dumpsters, and that's why they're filling
And
up
that's
a
why
lot
they're
faster.
growing.
But I think the point that Mark is making is people who are here are throwing their TVs
Yeah.
and
Well, no,
chairs and
that's
furniture.
probably a
And they used to
dumpster.
bring them here.
That is probably a bigger issue.
I think it may be. I don't know, and that's all anecdotal at this point.
No,
in
I think
time, but-
it's real. I mean, during the week, there aren't that many people here. I don't care what week it is.
Right.
And if I go to the dumpster on a Thursday, sometimes it's half full and it isn't with little bags.
Yeah, and in a great many occasions, what you'll find is large boxes, not broken down. And so people are apparently either buying a lot, and of course, disposing of things that they had around and replacing them. And we're seeing cartons, rather large ones.
Just throwing in the dumpster.
You don't put too many of those in a dumpster before.
Right before it's
pretty well filled it.
Yeah.
We have a problem, by the way, at Noon Peak with the slider door on the dumpster. It's
Right.
mangled.
Oh, good. Well, that's different.
Yes.
Well, then let them know, and we'll get you another dumpster.
Somebody apparently at some point couldn't get it open and hammered on it. And if it gets closed all the way, right, Will? If it gets slid all the way, it's very difficult.
Okay, well, this is part of our communication. Once we know things are wrong, we'll try our best to get them fixed and sorted out. All right, are there any more comments on ordinance 21? All right, so I will take at 4:15, we will close the public hearing. And what we will do is we will consider the changes made in the language and we will vote on it later. But thank you all for coming in and your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna skip ahead to an item that might be important for people to talk about that's way down before you guys leave. You might want to hear about this. I want to go to new business discussion of the educational funding process. This could affect our taxes dramatically. So, I just have to take a copy.
Yeah.
This is mine.
So what Mike is talking about is this is a state budget year. And there are several bills currently before the legislature. There are 6 or 7 bills that deal specifically with state education funding. 2 of those 6 bills reinstate the statewide property tax for education, which is right now we raise that amount of money, which for us is around $620,000. We get to retain all of that money here in the town of Waterville Valley and use it towards our school. The 2 bills specifically that look to reinstate it is they want to reinstate donor communities. So they will make us collect that money, just like we do the county tax, and then write a check for that $620,000 and send it to the state. Of that $620,000, we would get about $100,000 back
For the school.
for the school. So the impact would be about $500,000 or more on our tax bill with no change to the way we do anything. That is about $1.50 on the tax rate. I'll have the exact numbers at town meeting, but the potential is there if we don't get to our state legislators. So there is a group, there's about 35 towns in the state that are impacted this way. They go all the way from Moulton Borough, which is $2.5 million, down to, some of the unincorporated places, even like Ellsworth or whatever, which are, $50,000, $60,000. So it's a wide range of communities. But we are kind of banding together again, as we did in the past when this happened to us. And we're gonna try to get these bills killed before they get instituted, because we could have a pretty serious tax impact.
I think I saw a graph, it would spike in the tax rate.
Yeah.
That was, but
That
that was it.
That was it. That was 1999. We sent somewhere around $900,000 to the state as the town of Waterville Valley. So it was a significant $2 increase to the tax rate.
The other end of that is that when that money gets redistributed to the so-called
Right.
donor communities, they are not required to use it on schools.
Lot
So
of
they went out
stuff.
and bought fire trucks and
And I gotta be, I'm
Stadiums.
guilty because I was a finance director in Rochester the year that Waterville Valley wrote that $900,000 check. We received $31 million in additional education funding. And our total school budget for all schools in the city was $35 million. So, it was a real windfall to the receiver communities. And yeah, we built a fire station and we bought a couple of fire trucks.
And the new legislation still doesn't make the
Required.
funding go to education.
Well, when you have a $35 million school budget and you get $31 million in state aid for education, you can say that you spent it all on, but it freed up that money in the city budget without, and we gave a pretty good tax break that year too. So, yeah. So,
Is there anything posted we can look at and spread the word around to talk
yeah,
to?
we are working, the communities are working together to get, some public relation comments, so that we're all sending out the same message. I'm hopeful the board will be inviting our state legislator here to get him on the record for, what he's how he's gonna approach this.
Sounds a nice one.
Yeah.
All right, so I thank you, Mike.
Good to know.
Yeah, it's real good to know, because if this comes in, it could be another dramatic change to how we do things here. Well, thank you, folks.
Thank you.
All right, let's approve some minutes, shall we?
Shall we?
All right, let's look at the minutes from January 20th.
Okay.
Minutes.
They're not happy.
Really good. 21st, I didn't
Line 17, Karen, after the first sentence, I think you're missing a period, that's the road.
Oh.
The road.
Yeah,
Okay. And, yeah, and I think in 18, that should be a full colon, not a semicolon.
yeah.
Because, it's possible we may, I don't think I had any other.
All right.
That's.
So is there a motion to approve the minutes from the 21st as amended?
The Second.
All in favor? Third, at this point, I have something on line 50.
Second dumpster. Well, I'd like to see, yeah, because the access.
Yeah. Can you guys go out there? and-
Yes, please, the sale, yeah.
On
Line 50.
50, budget.
Pickleball continues to do well and continues to the sale of native IVs as the guided snowshoe.
Contributes to,
And
Contributes,
it should be contributes.
yeah.
Okay. And I also have
yes.
on line 104. Line 104, the daily drop-in rates are premium service offers to families not offered in summer camps normally. If any other than WV, then there should be additional fees for these services. That didn't ring right.
It's like, I think what was trying to be said was that we're the only one doing it.
Yeah, if other programs other than your camp programs don't offer drop-in rates, basically. Yeah. So I'll
Okay.
reword that. I think I tried to condense it a little bit too
We're
much.
the only ones who were willing to do
Yeah.
that. That's what she was trying to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think that they're very, yeah, same thing.
Anything else?
Yeah, I thought I was in this one that I had a correction, but I think it was in the other one.
Okay.
It was the question about whether the new truck is more efficient. Yeah. What is the efficiency of the engine and gas mileage? It's a question. I just stumbled over that. I think it's okay the way it is, but,
Okay. All right. Great.
What-
So
okay.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of the 23rd as amended.
I second the
Motion
motion.
the second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, great. They will move to financial update.
There was not.
Okay. Was there?
But,
Is there financial impact? Okay, so I'm not losing.
He said in the packet, they said you'll have it at the meeting.
I wouldn't go that far.
So,
We're doing, as I said in the memo, we're doing fine. Our only issue right now is solid waste. We are well ahead of the year. We're 15.5% spent on the collection side, which is all the personnel costs and everything. So that's not too bad. We're about 11% through the year. However, in solid waste disposal, because that's the tipping fees and the truck costs, we're already spent $19,000, which is 23.5% of budget. I would, yeah, as I think I wrote,
How much of that is the truck?
all of it. The tipping, well, it's hard to, we're taking, because as part of the rental of the truck, we have to tip at his facility in Warren.
Oh,
So we are not taking the material to Bethlehem, okay? So we're paying higher per ton tipping fees in addition to the rental of the truck.
how much more are we paying per ton?
$20 a ton.
Yeah, and the other requirement at the landfill is that you have a radio to communicate with people, and this truck does not have a radio.
We have to buy a radio?
No. So we can't use what he's saying is we can't use Bethlehem.
Right.
That's the other reason.
You are not
why
allowed in without.
We're not allowed in.
Radio
without-
Okay, so let me ask you a question. I don't know much about geography, but I know Warren is closer than Bethlehem.
Yeah,
So how much time and gas are we saving?
Saving at least a half an hour.
Oh, it's gonna be more than half an hour.
But you're taking less trash.
you're taking
Yeah.
less trash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're making
So,
more trips.
You're making more trips. So, but the bottom line
Yeah.
is, so we're ahead. We're about double where we expected the budget to be right now. But in terms of dollars, right now, that's about $10,000 ahead of where we expected to be at this time of the year. What I want to think about doing, like I put in my,
I'm confused.
we've spent about 18, as I said, we spent $19,000. That's about $10,000 more
Then we budget.
than we budgeted
Right.
for just the
How can we
tipping.
be ahead?
No, I'm sorry, overspent, over
Oh,
budget,
oh, okay,
not ahead
All right.
in terms of savings.
all right, so
Sorry,
that's where you,
I used.
We're
the wrong
behind.
word.
yes,
We're behind,
all right,
Because we spent more.
yes.
okay, just,
We're ahead in our
Over
spending.
budget, yes, we're ahead of budget, over budget, over
it's
budget.
very clear to me.
Okay. So as I wrote in my memo, what I would like to do is have an exact number that we are over budget at town meeting. And if it is in the 15 to 20,000 range as it could be,
And then the budget.
I would like to do an amendment on the floor to add that money in, because I don't want to commit that to contingency at this point in the year. So that's all
Should
I
it be
was saying.
prospective too?
Huh?
Should it be prospective in the sense that you wanna, as long as we're renting the truck, you wanna project how
Well,
much?
I think by then, by town meeting, we're gonna know whether the radiator fix works, because we're taking the truck down next Monday,
Okay,
right? And we're getting it fixed on the 19th?
Yes.
Okay,
okay.
so
Well,
next Tuesday,
I'm
we're gonna
not
put it
quite
in.
sure. It'll be here by the end of the month,
We're gonna get the truck back by the end
the
of
29th.
Alright, so
Running or
the
not.
29th.
the hope
Yeah,
is that we have our truck back, so the costs have already,
That's right.
right, the extra costs have ended.
But I also don't wanna commit any contingency, because we're still
In a
We're
gray
still
area.
in a gray area with the use of our old truck until we get the new one, if it gets approved.
Right.
So we've still got a few months that we could potentially have to spend on maintenance. Right.
What do we have to do to make an amendment to the budget at town meeting?
When the big budget comes up, you guys just amend it by whatever. You can make a motion to amend it.
And we provide the figure.
Yeah, I'll provide the figure, and it'll be part of the script, and we can talk about it before.
Right.
Okay, so other than that, the rest of the budget looks good at this point.
Excellent. All right, let's go to department heads. Hi, Brett.
So, we're getting ready for Massachusetts Vacation Week, which kicks off this weekend. We've got lots of stuff planned for next week, so we're getting ready for that. Our staffing is good and we're ready. We have been asked by the WVRA lodging and also the WVRA as a whole. Many of the venues have been asked to offer more robust programming for the February vacation week for New Hampshire, which is usually kind of, it's smaller, but apparently their reservations and occupancy are almost doubled as what they were last year. So we've all agreed to,
Is that coming from, say, Long Island and the Cape?
I don't actually know.
Those are two places that are reasonably close to have the following week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Vineyard in Nantucket, someplace on the Cape, and Long Island.
Oh, great. Well, I didn't know where they were coming from, but we have had, including the rec department, have sort of offered not as many
Right.
evening activities because the times we have, no one has come.
Yeah.
So they've asked us to do that, and so we're able to do that. We have the staff to do it, so we are doing it. We're not staying open till 9 p.m. like we do for Massachusetts Vacation Week, but sort of extended. So we'll see how that goes. I was able to receive the Waterville Valley resident list from Sharon. She's been able to send that to me, and I've also looked at our program and decided that we can do a native ID resident, and we can find them on this list. It'll be and give it them a native ID. So we have started that process. So I'll let you know how
Excellent,
that
thank you.
goes. Yep. I don't know how we want to spread the word on that. If it's something that we just do on our newsletter from the rec department, or I don't know if there's another way to get the word out for that.
Maybe the word
Wigwag, okay, that's a good.
Yeah, the wigwag article would be good.
Okay.
Just on what a native ID, I mean, it could be just in general.
Talk about the native ID.
Native ID.
And just that they're now eligible for.
And any town resident.
Mhm, okay.
Or owner of property.
Right.
Yeah.
But not both in the same property.
Right, and that is the only glitch
Right.
that we still have. So I will try and look at that.
Yeah.
But
I think my way of thinking is kind of like the dog wagging the tail. I mean, we should be servicing the residents, and if it's somehow somebody sneaks through,
Mhm.
I'd rather make sure that the residents are being served, even if there's
Yeah.
Someone who's taking advantage of us. But I'm sure you guys will.
yeah, I don't think it would be that much. I mean, if they
I
have a
get you.
property, they're not probably gonna be up here maybe once a year with their family, but
Right.
then that means that they probably have a second property to stay at. I guess it's not really a concern, but
That's fine.
we'll try to do that, where we are going to do that. And then the only other thing I have is that, Mark and I will be presenting at the WBAI social this Saturday, and looking forward to that.
See that.
Okay?
Too much fun this weekend.
Yeah.
I'm just
Trash
gonna
talk,
overload
trash
on-
talk.
I'm gonna overload on.
I'll be
fun.
there to throw some hard questions. from
Thank
the
you,
floor.
good, thanks. Thanks.
Yeah.
If you're there, you can help answer questions.
We'll be there.
All right.
Prepaid
We'll take it under advisement.
Yeah, right.
Good question. I'll take it under advisement.
Yeah.
I will be.
Thanks.
Yep.
All right,
Chris had to leave for an appointment.
Okay.
He said that there was nothing really that is pressing from his standpoint. Is there anything you would like me to ask him or?
just want to see how the clinic is doing and how they're doing on calls from out of there.
Okay,
How that's working.
clinic and calls at the mountain, okay. All right.
Anybody else for public safety?
Any others? Questions? Okay.
All right.
Jim?
Is it gonna snow tomorrow?
Yeah, it depends on who you look at. 1 to 2, changing the rain.
What's the time frame on that?
Early
Early this morning or
Yeah.
tomorrow
Yeah,
morning.
early tomorrow morning, and then change over probably. I mean, the way it's been going on some of these, it takes you 24 hours to get 2 inches. It's just been kind of,
God,
the way it's been going is just crazy. But thank God we're into February. We've got longer days and more intense sunshine, so that's helping us out.
Upper Mad River Road was finally ice-free today. They were scraping it because of the sunshine, so it's really starting to change the sun angle.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, so that's helping us out a lot, and we're just trying to stay ahead of some of the narrowing roads. Trying our best to get out, but there are some places where we really can't move the snow because we're gonna end up putting it on private property or where there's just no place to put it, so. We'll come up with Plan B here, I guess.
do you have a long-range forecast? Do you look at that?
I tend not to go out more than a week,
Okay, just wondering what they're predicting for next.
just because it's so,
I only have a big
Iffy.
in March.
Yeah. All right.
and typically the long range I find is they're just relying on historical data, so.
I assume a front end loader and a truck is how you get rid of excess snow. You can't
Yeah.
put something.
Well, the problem is, where do you truck it to? And we don't
Speaking of trucks, do we have one?
know.
Well,
Well, we have one.
issue.
Yeah.
Any word on the other truck?
It is moving along nicely according to the boys at HB Fairfield, and
And
it
where's
should be
HB
painted next
Fairfield?
week.
What if we just tell them we'll paint it ourselves later?
That's not
So-
what they're.
I don't know if I did tell you, but I sent Jeff and Nate down there, and they said the truck was coming along quite well. And they're very impressed with the new design of how they mount the plows to the frame and everything. It's a lot stronger than they've done it before, so if that's any consolation.
Not really, but
No,
thank you.
but thank you. All right, any other questions for Jim, Margaret?
No, I just, with all the discussion about garbage and garbage removal, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Well, and I think I've told you guys this before, it's a matter of volume. And there are some customers in town that require our services more than other customers. And what happens is that when we have a breakdown and we get behind, and then we have a snowstorm and we get behind, those low volume people are full up, just like the high volume people. And so our priorities are to keep Central cleaned out down here, and then we have to pretty much hit the commercials. And so we have some high volume condos that it's a little difficult to get to them,
We ought to communicate that as well.
Yeah, we will.
That our first priority is to keep this area down here, as clean as we can, and then do the commercials, and then we go after high volume condos.
But I think we have a breakdown in communication when a dumpster is frozen in for 8 days and it's not addressed quicker.
And we'll
But-
mention, I've seen
Right.
the sign on that dumpster, on the
Yes.
high country dumpster
Yes.
that tells people to take their trash,
Well,
to
yeah.
Sunday.
And we see, I think we see some of the dynamics a little bit better, but when it's hard for a guy like Will, if he's subbing out snow removal in a certain
Mhm.
condo association, to get those guys to respond as
That's the plan.
quickly as if it was
It's his guy.
himself or his
That's
guy.
the point of the breakdown. Before, when they
Yes.
had their own guys and they were crew chiefs,
Mhm.
the crew chiefs knew what was
That's
responsible
right.
they had to do, as opposed to the guy coming in and just doing the plowing. His job is, I gotta plow this.
Yeah, and we see that.
Yeah.
And there are some snow removal guys who are much, much better at doing it and than others are, so.
I think there was a good point made, a question asked that I actually don't know the answer to, is what is the town's responsibility with regard to waste disposal?
We are
We
responsible.
are
to
responsible for
dispose
this,
of the waste, like right.
like
here.
right here,
Right,
and C&D and electronics
Right.
and that type of stuff.
right,
The stuff that we do here
right,
is what the town's responsibility.
right.
Except we're charging people a $15 trash fee.
Yes. And
So we are responsible for those dumpsters outside as well on the condos. We can't say we are not, because we're charging each individual property owner.
Well, I think under state statute,
under state statute, we are responsible to dispose of the waste that is generated in our town.
Right.
How we do that is up to us. Now, we have decided to put the dumpsters out there and to have the central here. That's the way it's always been. The single-family homes have always brought, but we expanded. Our central used to be that little dumpster enclosure down by the wastewater treatment plant,
Mhm.
right?
you
We
should
just
see
have
that
two
on Monday
dumpsters in
morning.
Yeah.
right? So having 9 or 10 dumpsters instead of 2, we've expanded quite a bit.
Mhm.
The central. All these dumpsters out here are nice to have things. If you were treating every property owner the same in the entire valley, other than the commercials who are charged by the tip,
Right,
then they would be bringing all their stuff here,
right.
you know, but could we keep it cleaned up? I don't think so, if everybody brought their stuff.
Well, you'd have to bring
You know,
another
You'd have to
75,
have a different
You'd have
set.
to have,
a whole bunch.
You have to have
Well,
more
you'd
property.
have to have
If
management.
if I
and it
could
would have
add
to
one
be
caveat,
negotiated.
in my estimation, we offer a pretty good service compared to what, for $15,
Right.
compared to what these people would be getting from a Casella, a Witcher, or Waste Management. I talked to Witcher, I said, what do you do if you go to a dumpster and you can't dump it? Because whatever he charges per month, he said, if the car's parked there, I can't access it, or I for whatever reason, I can't dump it, I leave it.
I understand.
And then if they call, it's a $500 show up. So it's, and so they're not going around and checking. So if we contact Will and tell him there's a problem at wherever, and then the boys, they'll go back and check it at the end of the day to see if they can pick that dumpster up.
No, I get you. I think.
You know what I
we're doing-
mean?
We're doing okay.
Yeah.
People expect,
We're going
this is
beyond.
what people expect from us. And we, once again, like we talked about communications and things like that, we have to be a little bit better than the average. So we'll do our best, it's been a perfect storm. When you got a truck that doesn't work, when you can get a guy to drive it, and they're driving the plows when they're not driving,
So- But how are we gonna deal, because I really do think this demolition debris and all this other material and the cardboard boxes that are not being broken down and everything else that's causing these dumpsters to fill up quicker, how do we, other than calling someone, how do we deal with that?
Well, let's start by
Because-
calling someone. Let's have the guys note when they're picking up a dumpster. Oh, we picked up your dumpster. Did you notice it was half full because of cardboard boxes? Please let your people know. Or it was half full because there was a couch in there. Please let your
But
people
we have to
know.
remove the couch, right?
That's the
But I'm
thing.
Then
saying,
I would say, don't
let's
pick it up.
start the communication on the other way back. Saying that we went and we had this problem with your dumpster today. We could pick it up, but this was the problem.
Okay.
But I would say if there's something like a couch or material that we have to take out,
Right.
that we tell them it was not picked up because.
Typically,
Move.
right, but as long as we communicate it quickly. Okay.
Typically, it is communicate, it's point
Sure,
case,
yeah.
Windsor Hill, full of flooring.
Yeah.
And what happened is the property manager in charge was notified. Okay? But he didn't do anything about it. And then what they did was they filled it up and then they overflowed it and it's all over the ground.
Well, I think you notify the property manager and the condominium association president at the same time. Because that way the condominium knows the property manager is not paying attention as well.
Can I add one thing?
Of course.
One thing that we have been doing, and this is just helpful for tracking building permits as well. When someone comes in and they are gutting a kitchen or a bathroom or what have you, is that when they're bringing those items over, those folks that are bringing them over to the transfer station to dump in the C and D dumpsters, we're asking them for their building permit number when they're dumping. So if they don't have a building permit number in that one sense, it's like, well, before you dump, you got to go get a building permit. And so trying
There's
to,
Mad River Condos dumpster enclosure this afternoon at 2:30.
No, we're 100% right. We can't take the time and do that, but we have to communicate and say, hey, listen,
So,
hey,
yeah,
let
so
the
we
association
need to
president
call
and the
them.
manager.
That's right.
Especially since
That's right.
it's gonna get.
I'll give you another one that's great. I'm pulling in here to do. I see a BBTS coach that I know doesn't live in town, finishing
Well,
up
and-
the dumpster and gives me a wave.
And that's, we are
right on the road.
disposing of a lot of
I
trash.
think we need, I've said this for years now, we need a video camera there. Just to track it, so maybe we can get a video of someone we know dumping something in there that costs us to do something, and we can call them on it. And maybe it will deter people if they see this, a camera with a crawl tape on it. The stuff is cheap now. Does anyone else agree with me or not disagree with me on that?
I don't disagree.
Margaret?
we certainly don't wanna hire another person to stand up there and watch them.
But I think what will it hurt to have one there, let people know you were being videotaped, you cannot, with a list of things you can't dump.
Mhm.
And the honor box, you can pay to do the other thing. It might
Right.
stop that one person from filling up, throwing that television or throwing, all their carpeting and, or flooring into one of these dumpsters that we're gonna pull out
Okay,
later.
I'm not so much.
I'm not saying it's a be all, end all, we're gonna solve the problem.
No, but I'm not,
Yes.
actually, I think they're better down here about just throwing their trash, or their couch or their TV
Yeah,
against the red building and
Right.
driving
but we
away.
also might get that
But-
person for residents only.
Well, and that's more what I'm worried about down here especially is the resident only issue, because we are taking care of a lot of other
Well, then
towns.
that raises the question whether the cost of employing somebody to monitor that is it more
Right.
expensive than the cost for us to haul the trash?
You're looking at a
Yeah,
lot,
trash.
because it's a full-time person with benefits and everything else, so you're looking $78,000 by the time you grow.
Mhm.
Because we've looked into that, and we looked into fencing the thing off and having it only open certain hours
Mhm.
and all these other things, where most of our people are used to having
Yeah, coming
freedom.
anytime.
And that's another complaint we get, I don't know whether it's coming from residents, but people that do have these things, like electronics and couches, the back dumpsters are never open.
Yeah.
On the weekends, which is when a lot of them are here,
People,
yeah. Maybe every once in a while, we have to have a weekend.
Yeah, but those people aren't gonna hold a couch, for a weekend. No, we'll just keep on playing with it and see what we can get to work, as long as we continue to work on it,
We don't mind them dropping the couch off down here and
Down here.
and us
right?
taking care of it.
Yeah,
We
but
don't- I like to check the box and make sure there's a little compensation
well,
in there.
that's why we
for it.
want the cameras, so they know what they need to, the fees and the rest of the stuff, and if you're a resident or not, or, you catch that person who leaves 5 tires, they clean the garage out with 10 tires.
With respect, therefore, it would be helpful perhaps to have with respect to a camera, to have a sign.
Yeah, oh, of
A
course.
sign not only with the camera, but said, this transfer station is for use only
Yeah.
by
Exactly.
residents of
Yeah.
Waterville Valley, or property owners and residents.
Yep.
Get property
Yes.
guests, we'll have to figure out the right.
Right, no, we have a
language.
big sign, and then you
And it
also.
said, This is video.
Yeah.
This area is video monitored, whatever
No, the sign,
legally
the sign is as
allowed
important as the
thing
camera.
right, a nice big one. One quick point that I do want to remind the chair that there are people who don't have dumpsters available that also pay the $15. No, you said that we owe folks who we pay $15, for trash, which is about $5 a month or something, I think is what it works out to, who have dumpsters in their associations.
I don't understand your point.
It was a point that you made, forget it.
No.
But everybody is getting charged that
Right.
$15.
Whether or not they have
Whether
the
or not you
convenience.
have a-
Oh, no,
The convenience of it. I know you know that, I
wasn't-
just
yeah, I
wanted
wasn't learning anything other than that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll move on to calendar review. Next meeting, 27th, is everybody around?
I'll be up and I'll try to call in like last time, I'll work it out.
Okay,
All right. Planning board was this morning.
It was this morning. I think there is another planning board member here who attended, and I believe we had the town clerk was there as well. And Mark and I were there. It was a longish meeting, about 3+ hours, a little over 3 hours. Most of it taken up by Bill Cantlin's presentation for a conditional use permit he'd like issued on the property he's calling Brookside Ridge, is it? Or Brookside, the land,
something.
Brookside, the property between basically, well, you know where it is then, Snows Brook and Golden Heights Road.
It actually goes to the other side.
And on the other side of Golden Heights
One-
Road.
one-
And so we had a concept when we discussed it. There were a good number of people in the audience, about a dozen, I'd say, if not more. The sentiment, who quite didn't understand the meaning, the purpose of the meeting. Thank you. And I think we're going to have some issues with proposed zoning ordinance changes. And so we discussed on the planning board next Monday when we have the hearing Terry will chair the, I think, meeting, and I think Mark had addressed this in the blog, which I think, I don't know if you saw my note yet.
I haven't seen your note.
Yeah, I thought it was very well done, where he took each ordinance and why we made the changes we did. The only comment I made was that we need to stress, and to me, it's unfortunate she won't be there, but we need to stress that we engaged a professional
Okay.
planner, and the whole purpose was to update and clean up our zoning ordinances. And this, it's not something that we around the table thought to do, but rather these were her strong recommendations to how we needed to change our zoning ordinance to make them compliant with state law. I don't know, am I missed, is there anything else you'd like to say about
The
it?
participation of the two of them, just to at
Yeah.
least be in the, are you guys planning on being here for Mondays?
Monday at 3:00.
But I think just
Yeah.
stating, because
We have to state
the
our
planning
support.
board will,
Yeah.
everybody's got to state their support of what we're trying to do if you support it, so.
I think I need to abstain on some of it.
I don't,
Take a look at them.
take a look at
Take
it.
a look
I
at
don't
them.
know, yeah, that's,
I mean, you won't be sitting in your official capacity, you'll
Right,
be a property owner down there, so,
Right, but
you know what I mean? It's,
But we support it as a
Yeah.
board. We
no, you don't put a recommend, you
don't
don't have a recommendation.
We don't have a recommendation on those particular ones.
But-
we do support it as.
Well, it's up to you whether, if you want to vote to support them, that's
Right.
fine. But yeah, I think it's important that you,
Well, I don't understand them, so I'm.
well, that's why I'm coming. I read a bunch of it today, and I
I'll
understand
have to read your blog.
most
yeah,
of it.
look at my blog.
But I'm hoping someone
Yes.
brings the cliff notes in.
Well, the blog
My
take a
blog
look
is
at
the
the blog
Cliff Notes,
on the
so-
town site, and the support should be contingent on whether or not your support is going to help or hurt the passage
Yeah, right.
of the.
Well, I just
The
think that there's a
Oh,
real,
you're gonna have to back up on that one.
no, but I think there's a real
There's the word I'll use.
misconception. So like Rich
word I'll
was
use.
talking about is there were 12 people here, but virtually none of them really understood what the purpose of that meeting was today. And they're linking all of those changes in the zoning ordinance to this PUD
Right.
project.
That bill.
And that Bill's brought up. So, and,
Which they're
and,
against.
you know,
Are they
and
named the
it's-
others?
there are butters, and so, you know, one of them sat there and said, I'm just voting no on everything, because I don't wanna see this development, so I'll tell you later.
Right. But it's funny,
So-
I understand, this. I had a situation where I live in Mass.
Right.
And one of the things that came to mind was that we tend to enjoy the benefits of other people's properties.
Right.
Because I think one of the people who was in a butter said to me, well, he's gonna clear cut all the trees there. And I didn't want to have the heart to tell him, it's his property, he can clear cut the trees.
Well,
He
actually,
doesn't
Bill
want to
said
mention
that, Bill said that
Oh, really?
today. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it
was
wasn't
very
clear to be understood that it was village commercial and
Right.
that
But it doesn't even matter.
commercial
It's
property.
his land, he can do
His
anything
land,
with
that's
his
right.
zoning.
That's right.
I think the important thing
Right.
too to understand, and they're all focusing on this PUD, the one question that mentions PUD for the planned unit
Right.
development. You guys already have the authority in the zoning ordinance the way that it is. But unfortunately, it puts you guys in the driver's seat of the PUD. So the changes that are being proposed would make it a planning board responsibility and would clean up a lot of really vague
Right.
things
State
in our
language.
current.
Oh, no, I
Ordinance.
get all that.
So you guys need to tell them, I mean, Bill could take that same plan that he's presenting
Yes.
right now and bring it into you and say, I want to do a PUD. And our current regulations make it your responsibility to decide that. So-
Without planning board?
No, you make a decision and forward it to the planning board for ratification, but you guys are the authority in the gatekeeper in the
We say
ordinance.
yes, it goes forward
That's right,
to the plan.
right. So, and that's with no change. So if they defeat it, Bill's within his rights to bring it in.
John, did you have any comment?
No, it was all good. It was a very good meeting. I thought.
Okay, great. All right, let's move on to the presentation for the Ray Center and WVIA. I looked at
Okay,
Very nice. Any comments from anybody else on that?
I'll be there.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
And request to accept Health Trust Wellness Programs funds.
yeah, so we
That's $500.
received a $500 grant from the Health Trust to help us with our wellness program, and Judy administers that. We've done it, we've had weight loss
Last year.
competitions last year, and
Who won?
we've had healthy,
I did.
she
Brooke
did.
did.
Brooke did.
Of course, I did a good job of putting it all back.
Now you have to give the money back.
Let's do it again.
No,
I actually never took my prize.
there's
Never got
another,
paid.
there's another two I kind of prompted her on to start doing today.
Right.
Oh,
So,
So we got
Those are
healthy
coming.
eating. I mean, we've got
Yeah.
a different, bunch
Now,
of
can
different
selectmen
programs.
qualify for that?
Absolutely. You want to participate?
yes.
Come on in. We'd love
Do
it.
that. That'd be great
We'd
leadership.
love it.
What are you gonna do this year?
I don't know. We're going to
one of them is a picture one like we did before. Remember the picture one where you had to,
Yeah.
this is healthy meals, a color wheel. So pictures, colorful plates of your, and I said, combine that with
Yeah.
combine that with a weight loss or incentive as well,
Me
because
too. I'm right
and-
here with you.
but people don't have to do both. They do one or the other, or you do both, and you kind of
We should tag on a longevity prize too. How
Yeah.
long you can
how long you can.
sustain.
So but we'd like you to accept this $500
Yes,
for a wellness
I-
program. So,
Questions on that, Margaret?
Oh,
Okay, Rich? All right, I'll make the motion to accept the
Okay.
$500 wellness. Is there a second?
I said.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
All right, thanks.
The warrant posting certifications.
Yeah, so here's the certification sheet, and our plan would be to post it tomorrow.
Mhm.
So it'll be filled in for February 15th.
All right, does that need a motion or is that?
No, I think just a signatures.
Okay, any old business?
Did the school board warrant, did they say that they were against the expansion to 5?
Have you seen, I think it does say that, I think it does
Because
say.
Mike
that
Fergel told me originally, they said they were against it and then they were gonna change it to no opinion.
They were going to, but I think they left it in.
I think it is in there. Yeah.
I'd
have to look.
Email you. Do you
Got
guys care one way or the other?
No, not
it's-
really, it's just curious.
We're consistent. If
You want it
if
consistent.
there's a
Okay.
statement out, we'll take ours out, correct?
Yeah, I think it ought to be the same.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If it's
Okay.
in, it's in. If it's out, it's out.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, we'll
do that.
check.
Yeah, that's fine.
Great. Old business.
Old business. I did not have anything to do.
Okay. Correspondence, Kristen Score's request.
Yep.
But I didn't understand how long a period that $132.
This,
Seemed like it was a long period of time.
no, it, I do have those. Sheet. Done with it. Judy gave it to me and
It's
said. "Be a good boy."
5184 here. 18.
So it's these two. It's the interest and penalties, right?
There was one in 2015 and one in 2018.
So
Oh, I
this is
see.
what she's asking to, that wasn't with your packet.
Oh.
So, but wait, let me explain.
That's why I couldn't figure it out.
That's
why,
right.
because it wasn't with the back.
That's right. These two amounts, the 18
Yeah.
and the 114.20
Yeah.
is what she's requesting to be forgiven. When in my packet, I told you that she had had one other
Yeah.
period that she had had any interest in penalties. That's here. This 51 was part of the 114. So these are the same, so there's only been one other time.
So I got
that she's had-
5187 and 1879. How does it come up to 114?
She's already paid this.
Okay.
This 5187 is part of the 114.20. And then the 114.20 plus the 18
Right,
was the
but
total amount.
Here's my question. I'm seeing the 5187.
Yeah.
But how does 5187 become 114? You know, I'm just wondering if there's another one, if there are two.
Hold on, where's the letter? There's a total number.
I got it right here. Writing request, we hope this.
So 132.57
Is the 118 and the
18
18?
and 114.
Right, but my question is, how does 5187 become 11420?
Time.
But not, but it's not,
This is from the,
this is from 11/20/18, is 5187. And this one here is from 3/15 is 1879. I'm not seeing anything else.
It's because, and you see in that balance column, that's the unpaid balance, and that was as of the 28th. So that amount,
the 5187.
Yeah.
When, see, this is property 01. This is property 01.
Right.
Right here. So with the additional time from when this,
Yeah, this is only 3 months worth of interest on 15,
That's right.
5187, can't get to 11420. You know, even at 18%, it's not.
no, I understand.
Yeah. I'm wondering was the tax bill 1678? I'd see, I just.
I don't know how
Yeah.
it went from 5187 to 11420, but it did. Because it did, because
Okay.
this is property 01.
Yeah.
And this is property 01.
Right.
Okay?
Is there a water and sewer bill that could be
No,
noticed?
there is nothing in here for water and sewer. It is
Just that.
simply the 11420 and 1868 is what she's asking you to forgive. Okay? And so that is the question before you. And what I was trying to tell you was she only had one other time
Yeah.
since 2013 that she has had any interest that has had to be paid. at
Yeah,
all.
no, I've got you on
So-
that. I was just based on the information I
Yeah.
got. It looked
Yeah.
like she only owed 5187.
No, she owes these two amounts, and that's what Judy gave me late this afternoon before she left. She ran this report.
Okay,
And I don't know how it went from 51 to 114.
well, the 5187 is from the first issue. This 114 is the second issue.
what was the
114
second
says
issue?
property 01.
property 01, 18, property 02.
Yeah, I was looking at this, I was looking at that
Right.
invoice, yeah.
Maybe we'll
Yeah.
ask for a 132.57, but I don't know that that's the amount that.
Let's,
I think we need
let's
to
just get a
check.
clarification on this.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's fine, there's no,
I don't have any problem with forgiving the fees and interest, but I don't know that the 132 is the correct amount based on
Yeah.
what we're seeing here. So
Now, where did she get the 132?
she
The
added the
114.
18 and
114
114
And
and the
20,
18.
and 1868
Yeah.
But how come
is
it's not on our agent?
132.88.
And that's what's on this.
And that is what is on that page.
Yeah, no, I see that. I'm just not seeing on the aging. Oh, wait a second. Now,
Okay, I know, because it's 50, so she underpaid by the 51, apparently, maybe. And because it was an aging report, that was what was left. And the interest has been added to the 51. The interest is not counted in the 51.
this is just taxes on this one.
That's right. It's
Okay.
just the principal. That's how she
Yeah.
ended up with a balance. So because she didn't get the first bill, right? She claims that she didn't get the first bill, right?
Mhm.
She paid the second bill. When she paid it,
Right.
there was interest due on the first half bill, which left her $51 short. So that was a principal amount. So that has been accruing interest, and that's how it got to the 114. So that's just a principal amount.
So I see what it is. So it is the interest plus the amount of the difference between the first and second
Correct.
tax bill.
And that ended up being, because she didn't get the first half bill, right, is what she's claiming in the letter. When she did pay it, it ended up being $51 short, because there was $51 of interest that had accrued on the first half bill.
So it just continued.
So it continued
On the
to
first half.
accrue interest, and that's how it ended up at the 132.
Okay.
So I will get a clarification and write it out for you so that you can see it. So don't make a decision at this point. And we'll get an answer.
All right, now we'll move to our letter from our rep, our man in Havana, Mr. Stringer.
Man The first time I saw his email come through, I thought Jerry Springer was.
Yeah, I saw it.
was
And I-
emailing us.
I-
I'm like, what?
What do you want? I run through.
So he sent us an email regarding legislation on the assessing
Oh,
methodology
that's right.
for utility properties.
Right.
I did talk to our town assessor, and he recommends that we continue to use the state values, which is what we have historically done. He believes that our assessor believes that this legislation will basically make it virtually impossible for towns to not use the state values, because they're gonna discount any private assessments that are done probably back to the state values anyway. Mr. Stringham, Representative Stringham, says he's on the Ways and Means Committee, and he said that his support of this legislation is to eliminate the lawsuits, to give us one consistent way of doing things across the state.
Now, how can you eliminate the
And-
lawsuits? Because they weren't
Well,
initiated by.
By having this legislation, everybody will be doing it the same way.
Okay.
And I think given as low as the state values are on the utility assessments, we went through
Right.
that whole thing.
Rich, were
I
you here
think-
for that?
No, it was
Let me
before.
bring up what it is the utilities in the state that run through town are taxed and pay us a certain amount every year.
Right.
Now, they have challenged what the value
I
is.
remember that bit. Okay.
And we wound up, because we were going through our reevaluation last year,
Mhm.
we wound up in a quandary because I'm trying to figure out which side we were on that.
We were saying that their values should have been much higher.
Right. But because of the suit, we had to accept the values if they had prevailed in the suit.
Right.
Right.
Because of the state.
That's
Right.
correct.
Right, I remember.
So we ended up going back down to the state values, because those would have been the values that we
If
would
they
have
had
gone to.
Right.
If they had won. So my only point is, if we are assessing this the same across the state for utility companies, then we are not truly measuring market value in our town. We're saying that we're just gonna accept a value that the state determines for every community.
And that's what he's proposing?
And that's what this bill, that's what he's supporting. And I differ with him. I don't think that it's fair market value for Waterville Valley.
So we're saying because our land is worth so much more than somewhere else, where it would be.
Well, it
No,
might be, yes.
meaning that our land is $200 an acre.
That's right.
Where if you're in the back seat, like
Nashua.
somewhere,
Mhm.
Nashua, where it's,
100 or 30.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so but his point is, towns and cities are spending so much money on the lawsuits
Yeah.
that it's gonna ultimately save taxpayers the money if you just accept what the state says, but then why don't they do that for all assessing?
Yeah.
I'll be on the record for that. It's kind of silly to me to say that our property is valued the same as everywhere else in the state. It's not.
I don't know the answer to that one.
But I think it's not a lot of money for us. It's only 1 million out of the $331 million of our total valuation. So we're not some of these communities, it's 10 or 15% of their tax base. So it's not affecting us as much as it does in other towns. But would you like me to ask him if he's available to come in for your next meeting and talk to him
Sure.
more about this? And I
I always
also,
like seeing Derek.
yeah, and I also asked him if he wouldn't look up the education funding bills
Yeah.
to be able to speak to us.
Oh, that would be
Yes,
great.
That'd be great.
So, ask him to come.
Great.
All right.
Okay. Privilege of floor number 2, anybody? John?
I want to just thank the the select board, and apologize for taking so long, but I want to thank you for the help on the bus stop and getting
That's
that
great.
all in place. And I think it's worked out pretty good.
Yeah.
But wanted to appreciate your guidance and help.
Well, thank you for initiating it and getting it done. All right. Concerns and directives? Anything from non-public?
Yes, I got a couple of things.
All right. Let's all make the motion to go into non-public. I so move. At 5:12 we will go into non-public.
I went up to Thanks, guys. Thanks, Jim.